الله الرحمن الرحيم. قد أفلح المؤمنون الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون والذين هم عن اللغو معرضون والذين هم للزكاة فاعلون والذين هم لفروجهم حافظون إلا على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت أيمانهم فإنهم غير ملومين. فمن ابتغى وراء ذلك فأولئك هم العادون والذين هم لأماناتهم وعهدهم راعون والذين هم على صلواتهم يحافظون أولئك هم الوارثون الذين يرثون الفردوس هم فيها خالدون. ولقد خلقنا الإنسان من سلالة من طين ثم جعلناه نطفة في قرار مكين ثم خلقنا النطفة علقة فخلقنا العلقة مضغة فخلقنا المضغة عظاما فكسونا العظام لحما ثم أنشأناه خلقا آخر فتبارك الله أحسن الخالقين. ثم إنكم بعد ذلك لميتون ثم إنكم يوم القيامة تبعثون. ولقد خلقنا فوقكم 7 طرائق وما كنا عن الخلق غافلين. وأنزلنا من السماء ماء بقدر فأسكناه في الأرض وإن على ذهاب به لقادرون. فأنشأنا لكم به جنات من نخيل وأعناب لكم فيها فواكه كثيرة ومنها تأكلون. وشجرة تخرج من طور سيناء أتنبت بالدهن وصبغ للآكلين. وإن لكم في الأنعام لعبرة نسقيكم مما في بطونها ولكم فيها منافع كثيرة ومنها تأكلون. وعليها وعلى الفلك تحملون. ولقد أرسلنا نوحا إلى قومه فقال يا قوم اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غيره أفلا تتقون. فقال الملأ الذين كفروا من قومه ما هذا إلا بشر مثلكم يريد أن يتفضل عليكم ولو شاء الله أنزل ملائكة ما سمعنا بهذا في آبائنا الأولين إن هو إلا رجل به جنة فتربصوا به حتى حين قال رب انصرني بما كذبون فأوحينا إليه أن اصنع الفلك بأعيننا ووحينا فإذا جاء أمرنا وفارت النور فاسلك فيها من كل زوجين اثنين وأهلك إلا من سبق عليه القول منهم ولا تخاطبني في الذين ظلموا إنهم مغرقون فإذا استويت أنت ومن معك على الفلك فقل الحمد لله الذي نجانا من القوم الظالمين وقل رب أنزلني منزلا مباركا وأنت خير المنزلين إن في ذلك لآيات وإن كنا لمبتلين ثم أنشأنا من بعدهم قرنا آخرين فأرسلنا فيهم رسولا منهم أن اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غيره أفلا تتقون وقال الملأ من قومه الذين كفروا وكذبوا بلقاء الآخرة وأترفناهم في الحياة الدنيا ما هذا إلا بشر مثلكم يأكل مما تأكلون منه ويشرب مما تشربون آمنت بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Just a few lines, short poem in honor of our 8th holy Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa Ridha salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Let's be alone together and share the solitude. Let's be alone together and share the solitude, for in a world of 7 billion men, women and kids, I am alone. I am alone despite people surrounding me like my skin surrounds my bone. There's never a moment of silence, but that it's awkward and met with shyness, and it's as if to engulf in a minute of quiet, I need a license. I am alone even though no one's alone, and they watch from their thrones, from above and below, through TV and radio, watching our shadows like drones. I am alone in my own country, where my own people argue and bicker. I am alone in my own country, where my own people argue and bicker over who can make their millions quicker, who can show themselves to be richer and bigger, donating their souls to the highest bidder. Not rich in knowledge and spreading it, but in making rich tea and drinking it. And it's reached a stage where all we do is groan. And within that time, how much we could have grown. I am alone in a world littered with kings, so-called leaders following each other in a ring. How ironic. We see tsunamis and floods, bombers and blood. is like reading a comic. And engulfed in screams and cries of orphans, we drown, but still chant the names of the wearers of the crowns. Seriously, look at the world, 7 billion people, and tell me we're not alone when our hearts take longer to connect to each other than does our Wi-Fi in someone else's home. We are alone. But that's okay, for someone else was alone, yet remembered till today. But that's the problem. Our loneliness is pointless, and we haven't understood the meaning of singularity, individuality, unity. We've misunderstood. In loneliness, there is company. Every nobody is a somebody. Why is our loneliness obscured when loneliness he endured? He sat at the peak of existence and then began his climb. He sat at the peak of existence and then began his climb, while we count the number of likes on a screen and think we've reached the big time. We are alone. We are alone, and he was alone. Maybe in time and space he was, but time and space contradict divinity, like saying literally this poem is meant figuratively. An Imam, the 8th in our line. And never forget, words so perfect that when they left his tongue, none could reject. His power in a debate no one else would possess. He would tie together his Shia, after which they'd never digress. His success, his respect, but I think we all need to confess, he'd leave his town like a flower blossoms and crumble in his palm every problem. Loneliness he would convert into an entire nation of devotion, whilst our loneliness breeds disloyalty and corruption. We are alone, but so was he. We are alone, but so was he, and he took an unjust, unfair, un-Islamic request. Some would blame him. Some would blame him. Religious men eat hard bread. They only wear rags, clothes that have been shred. Piety is a product of poverty, not a heart soft. And anyone who claims different is lost. But Ali al-Ridha, pleased with his fate, when an illustrious, impeccable, infallible prince arrives, there'll always be people that will hate. He was satisfied with little, but was given everything. He was satisfied with little, but was given everything. And even in a palace, he taught us the essence of submitting. It's not you, O Imam, who are alone. Those who attack you have no friends. And you to your Lord are the closest of all. And you to your Lord are the closest of all. And to be alone with you, we would wish until the very end. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The managing committee wishes a hearty Khushali Mubarak to all of you here on the Wiladat of our 8th Imam Ali ibn Musa Riza alayhi salam. Tonight's program is sponsored by the family of Muhammad Khimji, families of Marhum Amir Molidina, Zinat Ratansi, Azmina and Safdar Rafiq and Abande Khuda. Please recite Surah Fatiha for marhumins of their families, the names displayed on the screen, and all marhumins. Suratul Mubarakatul Fatiha. Can we please now invite Sayyid Ali Abbas Razawi to the mimbar. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Brothers, even in a louder voice. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Suratul Fatiha.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد. Today is a day of hope. And it's a day of dua. You know, there's some days in the whole year that Allah picks for duas to be accepted. Today is one of those days that dua is accepted and trial and tribulation comes to an end. Look, in the last year, 2 years, 3 years, you've seen how life is. People have come and gone. Once upon a time, perhaps there were more elders. Today, you don't see them anymore, and death has no logic. Youth have gone, elders have gone, babies have gone, children have gone, and if you travel across the world, you'll see most of our jamaats are empty because of the fact that a lot of them have passed away. And you see, they say in a tradition from the Imam actually, he says, Akhir zaman will be that time where you see an acceleration in trial and tribulation. And you see that. And though people may have iman, as the Quran says, faith in God, and they may do amal salih, and they do good deeds, but that doesn't mean that they're guided because of one thing, and that is taqwa. Without taqwa, you could do good deeds and you can have faith. But what you come to realize is that darkness overcomes your heart. For every negative action a person does, even what they feel, there's darkness upon darkness. And for every goodness you do, light upon light. I'll give you an example. You've been told to pray 5 times a day. It doesn't mean if you don't pray, you only get 1 sin. It means for every time you don't pray, darkness upon darkness is clouded on your heart. And for every time you do pray and you do good deeds and you stop from sinning, light upon light upon light. And so this is why there's only 2 directions human beings are traveling in. Either you're moving towards the wilayah of Allah and Ahlul Bayt, or you're moving backwards towards the wilayah of shaitan. There's no middle ground. And this is why you notice sometimes the most religious of people, though they're committing every action, but you find that in their heart is darkness upon darkness upon darkness. And the biggest example is shaitan. So from all of this, in the words of the Imam, dhalal and dhulamat will fill the community, especially within Akhir al-Zaman. With all of that, you'll see people who are religious. You have the traditions in front of you. Ibn Tawus narrates from Amir al-Mu'minin, he says, even people coming on the pulpit, you'll find, even if they do come on the pulpit, for most of them in Akhir al-Zaman, in fact, they'll take you away from the deen. Why is that? Because they take you away from Ahlul Bayt and the Wilayah. Anything that takes you away takes you towards the dhulamat, regardless of who they are, what they are. And look, we don't have time to go into all of the traditions on that. But the reason why I touch this is for one reason, and that's because tonight is a night of dua. Today is a day of hope. Why? Because today is the birth of that person who after the 12th Imam is weighted the most. And this is why he's known as Alim al-Muhammad. The reason being is that from all of the Imams, he's weighted the most. So there has to be something, right, in him that the entire Imams weighted. And each one of them said, our grandson is coming, our son is coming. Purpose of waiting is why. Look, from an outer perspective, from a Zahiri perspective, from a historic perspective, you can Google the history. We're not here just to look at the history. We're here to go to the batin of the kalam of the Imam, which is Nur itself. From the historical narrative, you've seen what it is. Imam is the first person who brings the entire Sunni and Shia community together. Because Ahl Sunnah, the vast majority of them see the 8th Imam as a spiritual leader. If you put the Wahhabis and the Salafis to one side, the mainstream Sunnis who have been going on for the last 1,000 years, they see the 8th Imam as their spiritual guide. Qadiriyah, Tijaniya. So let's start off from West Africa, go to Eastern Europe and go all the way to Iraq. Each one of them believes in the 8th Imam as their spiritual Imam, right? If there's 3 parts of Wilayah, we believe in all 3, they believe in 2. So the 8th Imam is the one that unites Shia and Sunni on one maqam. On the other one, you find the schisms within Shias and finish. After this 8th Imam, there were minor schisms, but after the finishing of the Waqifiyah that takes place, what happens? Shiism becomes united. You notice there's no 13ers or 14ers. You're known as 12ers. There is nothing after you. Why is that? Wujud of the Imam, this muqaddas wujud brings everybody together. And then if you look at the ziyarah of the Imam, look what Ayatollah Khou'i says. He says the most tawaf from all of the Imams is if you go to the 8th Imam. Why is that? And there's multiple traditions as to why that is. But look, it's impossible to cover everything within 20 minutes. The one thing we can do is bring everything together and tell you something. Your akhirah depends on your ma'rifah of the Imam. Because the mizan, the entire test for all of mankind is insani kamil, is waliullah. Where do we see it? Look, start off from the beginning. I'll start off from the beginning of creation and work in 20 minutes to Imam Ridha alayhi salam, if it's possible. Start off from here. Go to the Old Testament and look at the Quran. 2 books. Open it up, all tradition, Jewish tradition, whether it's the Talmud, the Babali, or so forth. Look at all the traditions on creation, right? Before man, there's 2 creations, Nasnas and Jinn. Nasnas is a form of a human being. So there was a human being before the human being, Nasnas and Jinn. And there's been Adams upon Adams upon Adams. In the words of the Urafat, the world has been for as long as Allah has been. They don't believe, the Urafat don't believe in the beginning of the universe. They believe in a world which is horizontal, that continuously was there as long as Allah was there and will be there even after us. This earth may go, universe continues to expand. Right? It's very close to the quantum theory, but look, again, we don't have time to go into science. These are the Urafat, by the way. Why do they believe that? Because they believe that Allah, His outer manifestation requires the world to be there. His names manifest. So all of creation is there, basically. The long age argument, for example, that human beings were the first, no, we weren't. We were the last in creation. The reason is we're the polish of all of creation. This is why we're insan. But anyhow, what happens? 2 creatures on earth, right? Essentially, Nasnas and Jinn, they have a fight. Fight takes place, bloodshed is caused, people are killed. Hence the angels knew the fitrah of man. Allah gives a decree, wipe them all out. There was a person called Harith on earth who was from the Jinn. He says, Allah, in fact, he appealed to the angels. When the angels came to wipe out, he could see the angels because he was from the Jinn. He says, tell Allah, save me. His batin was darkness, dhulumat. He says, tell Allah, save me. He made a dua, Allah accepted it. What did Allah do? Now come to the Quran and see. Brought him to the maqam of the angels. Where we make a mistake is we think Allah brought Harith, who later on became Azazil, to the maqam of the angels. Allah didn't take him to heaven. On this earth, he raised his maqam. Azazil never saw that divine realm. Maqam was raised because the journey is through the heart. Hence, you can reach the maqam of the angels from the heart. So none of our traditions say that Allah raised Azazil, who later on became Shaitan, to the level of the jinns in terms of the physical maqam. It was a movement of the heart. And in that entire movement, what does Allah do? Allah knows that light and darkness can't exist together. So what happens then? Allah tests all of creation. What does He do? Insani Kamil. Who is it? Adam. Who is Adam? Sahib Wilaya. Brings him forward. What do the angels say? So each one of this creation, angels, shaitan, and human beings, all of us sin. Or at least all of us make a mistake. Put sin to one side, all of us make a mistake. What do the angels do? Angels begin to argue with God. In effect, they say, why should we? What is He going to do? He's going to shed blood, and He's going to cause fasad on the earth. What does Allah say? I know what you don't know. Fine. Angels went quiet. The angels put a question in front of Allah. Allah doesn't mind it either. He didn't destroy the angels. What does man do? What does Adam do? Right? Adam comes third. But what does Shaitan do? When Allah tells the angels to bow. Now look, there's a technical discussion here. Allah asked the angels to bow. He didn't ask Shaitan to bow. Right? Technical discussion. Why was Shaitan cast out? Why was Shaitan cast out? Ulama have argued this wasn't wajib. This amr of Allah for shaitan wasn't wajib. What did Allah not like? Shaitan is a believer. Shaitan is raised to the level of the angels. Shaitan is more alim than me and you. Look at the Quran and see. He knows that if you want a dua to be answered, you address Allah by Rabb. So he addresses Ya Rabbi. He knows what Ilah is. He knows what Rahman is. He's playing with the names of Allah because the names of Allah house the secrets to wilayah. Throughout the Quran and the Old Testament, you see Shaitan knows. He's Arif Billah in that case because he knows the names. A maqam that maybe I haven't reached, but maybe some of you may have reached. He knows how to play with the names. Still darkness though inside of him because it's not actualized. Allah uses this as an excuse to separate light and darkness. The principle is this: sometimes people of light can go into darkness and come back again to light. And you notice sometimes the most wretched people can come to light and go back to darkness again. Where do you see this? Karbala is the biggest mizan. Hur is taken from darkness and brought into light. And then you have some people like Shimr who are with Amir al-Mu'mineen who go to darkness. So you see, what is the pole? The pole is one person. The pole is Imam, Sahib Wilaya. Allah says, bow. What happens? What does shaitan do? He's not lying either. خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ خَلَقْتُهُ فِي مِن طِينٍ. What is he saying? Allah doesn't correct him and say that you're wrong. No. خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ was correct. I'm superior because I'm made out of fire. He is superior. Look at the property of fire. Clay, you can have good clay, you can have bad clay. You can put seeds in, it grows into a tree. Some are dirty. Water can be salty, can be sweet. Fire is fire. You don't find dirty fire, less fire, more fire. Fire is pure, it burns. Shaitan is right. Existence of shaitan is better than us in terms of the fact that it's fire. He says, but you made him from clay. What did Allah not like? Allah hated arrogance. The first sin on earth that was created was arrogance. What is the Imam coming to do? Breaking that arrogance. This is why Iman and Amal Saleh is not enough. If you look at all of the verses, it carries on to other things as well. This is why now coming to the eighth Imam. What does the eighth Imam say? When you go for ziyarah to Mashhad and Qum, you also go into ziyarah of Shah Abdul Azim. When you go to a ziyarah, for those people who have been to Ray, for example, you go to the city of Ray. What do you see over there? That Shah Abdul Azim came to the Imam, eighth Imam, and he asked him a question. He said, Mawla, I'm going to Iran, right? What should I do? He says, give a message to my Shia. He said, what is it? He says, save yourself from the Satan. He says, but Mawla, what do you mean by saving ourselves from the Satan? He says, there's a couple of things that you need to do. If you don't do them, however religious you are, however muqaddas you are, whoever you are, you will be misguided. And if you're misguided, you won't come back again. Why? Because shaitan knows the inner secrets of your heart. Why does Adam eat? If you look at the hadith, you'll see. Adam knew, because he had access to the batin of man. Shaitan knew what Adam had in his heart. What did Adam have? Adam didn't want to come out of this paradise, basically. In his heart, he was, I want to live here forever. Shaitan exploited it. Took a qasam, took an oath from Allah, and then after that, what did he do? He says, go and eat from it, it's fine. You'll stay here forever. What is the job of shaitan? To go deep inside of you, to take your insecurity and to bring it up. And this is why you have what you have today, fitna, and fasad, and problems, and the Muslim ummah broken. Forget the Sunni community, look at the Shia community. Why is that? Batin goes inside, brings that out. What is Imam saying? He's saying, listen, there's about 4 or 5 things that you've got to understand. If you can understand them, you'll be preserved from the shaitan. He says, so what is it? He says, first thing is this, tell my Shia, always tell the truth. Even if it means that you're backed in a corner, don't lie. For every time you lie, darkness. He said, there's certain things my Shia don't do. I remember this. He said, second thing is this. To protect a community, remember, amana, you know what amana is? It doesn't necessarily mean somebody giving you money or something. It could even be words. I come to you and say, please don't tell anyone. And you've got some of us who are like CNN and BBC. I know if I want something to spread, I can tell one brother, and tomorrow when I go to Orlando, everybody in Orlando Jamaat knows. Why? Because BBC is here. And if you tell Al Jazeera, then when I go to Iraq, everybody there knows. But the second most important thing the Imam says is, look, amana. Somebody says to you something, gives you something, what do? It doesn't matter even if your enemy comes to you. Even if your enemy comes to you. even if your enemy does. Make sure that you preserve it. Second thing. So then he continues. He says, second thing I want you guys to do, silence. You don't need to talk. And then he breaks from that silence and he says, and don't expose anyone. Basically, don't expose your dirty laundry in public. The one who's saved is the one who remains silent. If you have here the Imam is saying, if you have a disagreement amongst each other, he's not talking about non-Muslims here, he's talking about Shias. Even with non-Muslims, but let's say two brothers sitting here have a problem. Imam says, and this is continuation of the hadith, when you meet each other, make sure it's with a smile, make sure it's happy. Even if you have negativity amongst each other, don't take it to the stage where you're exposing it all over the world and all of the people and so forth. Who's saying? Imam is saying. So make sure this, however much you feel wronged, Imam says, make sure this. The hadith is there. Shaykh al-Saduq has narrated it. Shaykh Tusi has narrated it. There's a tradition, Masharak al-Anwar al-Yaqeen, similar to this. So Imam is telling us, look, there's some principles. Why? Because the minute you start opening your mouth, the minute you start exposing people, the minute you start saying things, what happens? Bang, shaitan comes and infiltrates. Moves to what? Moves from lightness into dark. You're effectively moving away from the wilayah of the Imam. And when you do so, then what happens? Trial and tribulation befalls you. Immediately. Trial, tribulation. That's why communities end up where they are. Because they've lost the track. And the track is what? The track is alignment. Humbleness in front of waliullah. So shaitan was tested, shaitan failed. Adam was the track. And today, Imam is the track. It goes back to the teachings. How much can me and you stand firm on this track? That's the most important thing. How much can we do so? You know, look, problems befall all of us. And it will continue to befall all of us because it's Akhir al-Zaman, right? Lofty is the person who can follow these teachings of the Imam and move forward. What is Imam? Look at him and see. There's 3 or 4 things that are coming into my mind. First thing is this. Understand the Imams from their titles. The titles, the laqab of the Imam, al-qab of the Imam is there. Brother, very beautiful poetry just recited. I enjoyed it. One thing he said, Allah is happy with that person, with the Imam. Why? Because it's known as al-Ridha. Actually, that's not the meaning of al-Ridha. The meaning of al-Ridha here in this context is not just a person who Allah is happy, maqam al-Ridha. It's a person who takes others to maqam al-Ridha. That's what Ridha is. That's why he's known as that. Otherwise, all of the Imams are in maqam al-Ridha. All of our A'immah. The actual definition for the laqab of this Imam in this context is a person who takes others to maqam al-Ridha. If you follow him, Allah is happy with you. Basically, that's what the meaning of it is. Allah is happy with him. Allah is happy with all of the Imams. Allah is happy with people who are not Imams as well. The difference is this. If you follow him, and that's where, if you look, how ironic is it that the most followed Imam from all of the Imams in Ahl Sunnah is Imam al-Ridha. Though everyone claims to love Amir al-Mu'mineen, it's not that, if you look at it, Qadiriyah, the amount of Qadir, just a number of weeks ago in Mashhad, the amount of Qadiriyah, Sunnis who are coming to the shrine. I myself have taken Sunnis to the shrine of the 8th Imam. They go, they prostrate, they bow down, because that's their tradition. Right? Remember, we have a tradition, they have a tradition. Their tradition is in front of their murshid, their kamil, they bow down. So all of them are there in a line bowing down, big beards, no mustaches. And they're all praying like this, so you know they're not Shia. Why? What is the Imam? He takes a person to maqam al-Ridha. That's why they say, don't ever look at the outer. You don't know who's going to be where. Wilayat of Ahlul Bayt is such that it can make khur in the space of one night. That's why I look at these titles of the Imam and you come and understand. These days are not days of disunity. These days are days of unity. Believe me. What does in the Quran say? وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Don't divide. Keep your belief. It's important. Keep your belief. We're not compromising on belief. What we're saying is that we want to take you as well. This should be a hujjah. I'll give you an example. Ma'mun Rashid comes to the Imam. Where's the tradition? Shaykh Saduq narrates it. Ma'mun Rashid comes to the Imam and he says, Ali ibn Musa Ridha, I can't have any children. He says, I can't have any children. Imam smiles, he says, come back to me in a year's time. Allah's given you a child. What happens? A year later, a child is born. Tell me. One tradition from the Imam. Give you another one. Now that we're on this, Ayatollah Wahid al-Khurasani, in one of his lessons, mentioned something. Now listen to this. Ayatollah Wahid al-Khurasani says, he's still alive, he's 101 years old. He's the biggest marja in Qum. Ayatollah Wahid says that I used to have a teacher who I studied with for 20 years. That teacher was a person by the name of Mirza Habibullah Gulpaygani. He says, when I was in Mashhad, he would give me spiritual exercises. He says, one day I went to him and I said to him, how comes Allah made you Sahib Karamat, a person who can perform miracles? Famously, his right hand, whoever he put his hand on their head, whatever illness they had, whether it was cancer or otherwise, would be cured. So there are people like this in the world, or you can imagine. And this is not a normal person. This is Ayatollah Wahid, who when he phones Ayatollah Sistani, I said, give me the phone, I want to speak to him. Both, this is maqam of Sheikh Wahid al-Khurasani. He says, I asked my teacher of 20 years, what took you to this? You know what he replied? He says, for 40 years, now this is going back to the days when it wasn't 24 hours open. Mashhad wasn't open. He says, for 40 years, I used to do tahajjud on the door of the Imam because at night time we used to close after Maghrib. He said, at Fajr time when it opened, I was the first person in the haram for 40 years. He said, 40 years later, I was lying in a hospital bed. I was dying. With tears in my eyes, I looked towards the shrine of the Imam. I said, Mawla, for 40 years I've come to your shrine. Today, help me. Surely I have some haqq. Help me. I said, today's the day of hope, right? Why? Go to Imam al-Ra'uf and you'll see. Your Imam al-Jawad called his father Imam al-Ra'uf. Look at the ziyarah. Called him Imam al-Ra'uf. You know who Ra'uf means here? A person who distributes mercy of Allah. Your dua that's not been answered, for some reason Allah's called you here. Pray and see. People who are paupers come to this majlis and they're made ghani. The problem is we don't understand it. Let's understand it. Look what happened. Mirza Habibullah Gulpaygani says, my eyes closed and something happened. He says, all of a sudden I see a garden full of roses. I looked forward, I saw the Imam was sitting there on the minbar. He says, come to me. I came, he gave me a rose. I held it with my right hand. When I woke up, the rose wasn't there, but I felt pain. I put my hand, the pain went. I realized Imam has given me something, that right hand. He said, I put my hand all over my body, the doctors came, I was cured. He said, from that day onwards, anyone who I gave my hand to would be cured. However, if I gave my hand to somebody who wasn't at that level, or at least who wasn't pure, it would diminish. So Ayatollah Wahid said that, he would recite a dhikr to get it back again. But even until the end of his life, a little bit of it still remained. The ability to cure people. What is it? 20th century. Where's the miracle come from? Imam Rida alayhi salam. Many a time we don't understand what wasila is. We don't understand what shifa is. Why don't we understand it? Because we've not understood what wilaya is. Otherwise, I'd say, let's all sit at home and say to Allah, deliver my income here and my food here, and let me open my mouth and put it in. People would say, you're mad. No, but this is shirk to go out and work for somebody. Surely I should just ask Allah directly. What is the place of the Imam? The Imam is where all of the dhuhurat of the asma and sifat of Allah come out. If there's one place dua is going to be answered, it's there more than anywhere else. It's location. Why? All of the names of Allah. Allah in the dhuhur is there. Mahdhar of Allah. Madhhar al-ajaib, if I take it further, is there. It's the Imam. First story. Second, let me tell you this. Look, for those people who've lost hope, because many people have in life. Sayyid al-Fahri, some of you will remember, used to be in Syria. Last days of his life, he came back to Mashhad. I still remember, I think it was in 2006 or 2008 when he passed away. When he came back, he went to Sheikh Bahjat, Ayatollah Bahjat. He went to him as an 80-year-old man. Ayatollah Bahjat's son, Ali Bahjat, Ali Agha, basically said, I was watching. He said, Sayyid al-Fahri came, who was also a student of Sayyid Ali Qadi Marhum. So he wasn't a small guy, he was an Arif. He said he grabbed onto Ayatollah Bahjat and he said to him, he said that you've wronged me. Agha said, what do you mean? He said, we were friends. We've been friends for 50 years. He says, you found the path to Allah. You didn't tell me. He says, you didn't fulfill friendship. Give me something. Ayatollah Bahjat said, if it was anyone else, I would not have said anything. But because of our friendship and because of the way that you asked, I'm going to tell you. He says, I want one thing that Imam Ridha's given you. He says, Mawla gave me 10 things. I'm going to give you one of them. As I heard it, I'll tell you. Ayatollah Bahjat said to Sayyid al-Fahri Marhum, because Sayyid al-Fahri said, he said, I don't have time for you to give me dhikr. There's no way I can now recite 12,000 times Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum and 24,000 times Bismillah and 42,000 times Allah and 70,000 times La ilaha illallah. I just don't have the strength anymore to recite it in a day. Yeah, I'll get there, but I don't have strength. Give me something easier. Ayatollah Bahjat said this. He said, brother, whatever happens, do not ever lose hope in Ahlul Bayt. Those people, his exact words were, those people who take panah, who take refuge in Ahlul Bayt will grab them and take them. In this life, don't ever lose hope. Who? He says, 8th Imam told me himself when I went for the ziyarah of the 8th Imam. However difficult life gets, however difficult as it gets. Even if you think the whole world is against you, even if you feel that everyone is swearing at you, and this is the day of social media. There's one poor alim who's getting slaughtered on social media. Today there'll be somebody else tomorrow. And now with everything else, videos and hate campaigns and everything else. Look, everyone's going to feel something, but remember, what is the Imam saying? He's saying, look, don't lose hope. You hold on to us, we'll take care of you. Sayyid al-Fahri broke down. One thing. Second thing is this. It's coming to mind. I wasn't planning to say this, but it's coming to mind. There's a very famous Mimbari reciter, Wa'iz, in Tehran, by the name of Sheikh Masood Ali. Sheikh Masood Ali said once, he said, I was invited in Mashhad to recite. And he goes, when I was reciting, Ayatollah Khamenei was there as well. So he says, after I got off, he came to me, he told me a story. So now he's saying, from Ayatollah Khamenei, who's on this wave through. He said, Ayatollah Khamenei took me to the corner and said, I want to tell you a story. He says, what is it? He said, outside of Mashhad, there's a village. In that village, there was a woman. To this day, old woman. And she used to have a small school. Nobody knew where she got the money from to run the school. Orphans, widowers, everybody was coming. She was supporting them, thinking, where's she getting the money from? So one of the mullahs came and he said, look, where are you getting the money from? She goes, oh, Imam or Ridha. Either she's a bit loose in the head or she's just saying it just generally. It's fine. He said, one day I just thought, I was in shock. Let me see what happens. I followed her. So she got onto the bus and she goes to Mashhad. He says, I followed her. I was watching her all the way, and because she was old, she didn't realize I was behind her. So I followed her and I took refuge in some of the roads, and I saw her go to the haram of the Imam. Now in those days, that glass division wasn't there. And you could see everything that was happening. So he says, I was watching in the women's section just to see what she would do. And she was standing there for ages. 45 minutes, 1 hour has gone by. And this woman's not moving. Now when she comes back, she saw me. So I said, listen, can I ask you a question? Why are you standing there? You know what she replied? She said, my Mawla was asking, how is this yatim? How is this yatim? How is this yatim? How is this? So every single one of the children I was telling my Mawla. So he's thinking, is there anything else your Mawla gave? She opened up, she says, yes. You see this money that I was telling you? That zari of the Imam gave me all of this. Now the Imam took a step, this man took the step back. The reason being, he saw she came with nothing. She says, my rizq comes from Ali ibn Musa Ridha. Now this story is not from me. Masood Ali told me who was told by a marja, who himself was a witness to the fact that this woman, isn't that shirk? If that's shirk, don't ever go to your banks for loans, because it's all shirk. What does it mean? This is only wealth. Risk is even bigger than that. Wealth isn't risk. Spiritual is risk. Taking you to maqam illiyin is risk. That's a risk. Money comes and goes. Balance of the heart and the ability to transcend, that's a risk. And that comes from the door of the Ahlul Bayt. Remember one thing. Go back to what Sheikh Bahjat said. Anyone who takes refuge with the Imam, Imam will make sure everything comes. Ultimately, it is Allah. Everything is from Allah. But I'm talking because of Allah, and you're listening because of Allah, and we're gathered here because of Allah. And if I was to give you something, it's because of Allah. And if you were to give me something, it's because of Allah. And if we do business together, it's because of Allah. And if there is, everything is because of Allah. Nothing happens without Allah, but Allah has made sure that there's certain people. This is why we use the term Hujjatullah. They're proof of Allah on earth. And their proof is this, that when you go to somebody like Jawad, he gives, and he doesn't stop. In the words of Muhaddith al-Nuri, when he was asked, he said he gave all of the khususiyat of all of the A'immah. He says each one of them what they are. If you have a Muhaddith al-Nuri is saying, if you ever have a problem with the risk, go to Jawad because he's giving. And if you ever have a problem with your eyes and health, go to Imam al-Kadhim. And how many Sunnis have I seen there who have gone there with their children and Allah's given shafa to their children? And it happens to them before it happens to us. We're still sitting there thinking, well, what's happened? And the Sunni's gone and shafa come. How did call them? Think about it. People go, they get. Door of Ahlul Bayt is Babullah. Allah doesn't have a physical door. Allah doesn't have a physical door is, well, let's say the Kaaba is the house. But does Allah reside there? Allah is everywhere. There are locations that Allah has put. Why does the Quran keep it? It's miqat, right? There's more than that. There's locations in the creation that Allah has put for you to have your dua answered. There's times that Allah accepts your dua. To give you an example, after 5 minutes, the hadith says that the heavens open up for dua. You have a 5-minute bracket. Go into sajda and pray. It doesn't matter if everybody else thinks you're mad. If Allah raises you, fulfills your hajjah. Hadith said this multiple times of the day where your dua is accepted, but the timing is short. There are places on earth where your dua is accepted. In the words of Abul Hasan Hafiziyan, if you go to Kashmir today, there's a place called Sufipura. He put Isma Adam in that ground. So one of the big schools of Irfan is from the Mashhadi school of Hafiziyan. Famous mystic, died in 1980-81. Sahib Karamat, the whole Zarih of the Imam was built by him. He put an amulet in the ground. He said, if anyone comes here, anyone, on the 15th of Sha'ban, on the night, and recites 2 units of praise on this maqam, whatever their hajat is, will be fulfilled. If not, come and give me la'an. He says, I put something here, where an eyewitness who used to do the sweeping there said, we used to see Hafiziyan on multiple occasions, me the 12th Imam of this location. His daughter's alive. She's in Mashhad. These are mountains. But what if the average person has that ability, what does Imam and Ma'soom have? This problem is we haven't understood wilayah. If the Imam is just like me and you, there's no hujjat of Allah on earth then. Hujjiyat means something else. We need to get back to that. Only then can you understand Allah. Tawheed, we're stuck on Tawheed. Tawheed is the beginning, Wahdat is akhir. Tawheed means bringing everything together. Maqam al-Tawheed is only the first level. That was wajib on you. The Prophet taught you that. Nothing else was wajib on the Prophets, just to take you to Tawheed. Imam take you to Maqam al-Wahdat. That's why they say the difference between the 12th Imam and all the other Prophets and all the other Imams is in this world what's wajib to tell is Tawheed. Imam takes you above Tawheed to Maqam al-Wahdat. But look, I don't want to open up a bab of aqaid here or technical discussion that maybe you've not heard before, but these are technical theological discussions. That Tawheed is just the beginning. Tawheed means everything comes here. maqam jam. Everything, wherever you see the face of Allah, as the Quran says. But there's something, that's the beginning. Where does it go to? Maqam wahdat. What is wahdat? Wahdat is this, that in the unity you see the multiplicity. Not just in the multiplicity you see the unity. But anyhow, these are technical discussions. Imam Ma'asum, therefore. Look, let me take you to another tradition. We've got 3 minutes to conclude this. Take it to another tradition. What is Imam? Even to this day, wujud al-muqaddas of the Imam is such. Anybody who goes and takes sanctuary there gets. Anyone who takes sanctuary. It's not just in the lifetime where he gives Ma'mun a child, or people money or wealth. That door's the door of Rahmah, or the door of Rahmah is. You'll see there's many gifts that a person gets, fills the heart. In the words of, I remember Ayatollah Hassan Zada Amli, somebody asked him, 2008 or so, I remember he was walking down one of the streets, and it was about 11:30, and all these people went, and they were all gathered around him, and somebody asked him a question, how did you become Hassan Zada Amli? He said, I used to cry a lot when I went to the Imam alayhi salam. I saw his, in a makashifa coming out the shrine, he came to me and he kissed me. That kiss was so powerful that my entire chest exploded with knowledge. That's why I'm who I am today. Humbling oneself. So what does Allah say to shaitan? Then now coming back to the very beginning of what we said, Allah said, sajda to the angels. Angels can't do physical sajda. Think about these things. Angels are not physical to do physical sajda. What does it mean, sajda here? Sajda means submission to maqam wilaya. What do you do then? You're also in the same boat. Shaitan had to do sajda, not physical sajda. It means submit to insani kamil, submit to Adam. Similarly today, are you shaitan, are you the angels? You've been told to do sajda to insani kamil, meaning well, not physically, it means submit with your entire wujud to the wiladat of the Imam. But what does that mean? That just doesn't mean I love him. No, what is love? Mawadda is actively showing it. What is showing it then? Your character, your actions, your tongue, everything needs to reflect that. Have we moved to that stage? How many times are we backbiting and God? All those things that the 8th Imam said that if one does, shaitan will grab onto them, as we said, 7 or 8 things. At least start off with that. At least start hiding people's secrets. At least start meeting people nicely. Build bridges and not destroy them. What happens? That's when you begin to understand maqam wilaya. So look, on a night like this, what's important? Make that connection. Have your issues solved. Give yourself hope. Shake something. This is why they say, if you want to know if Allah is accepted, you're coming here to any majlis or gathering of Ahlul Bayt. If you walk away from here feeling that there's something practical that you can change about yourself, and if you implement that, that means your coming here has been accepted. And that is exactly the same milak as if you go to ziyarah. People ask, how do I know our ziyarah is accepted? Very simply, you could go 100 times, and 100 ziyarahs can be accepted. One condition, if you come back, and if even one thing is better about you, even one thing you've improved upon, that means the ziyarah is accepted. And it doesn't matter how much you're standing there crying. Look, there's 2 things there. Firstly, remember this, Imam accepts everyone. So the argument isn't there that he hasn't called us. Look, if he can call Hur, if he can call all sorts of other people, there are people over there who are not righteous people, you know that. There are people over there who have the best, probably some of them have the best, some of them have the worst akhlaq. So Imam's door is open. Why? Because Imam is madhar of Rahman. And Rahman is for all human beings, 7 billion of them, as the young man was saying. But Allah is Rahim as well. And Rahim is only for those people who are special. And those are the people who take something and come away. Today is how much are we going to take from this gathering and take away? This is why it's important. Connect your heart to the Imam. If not with anything, at least with a salawat that is so powerful that when it comes from the heart, Ahlul Bayt have said, if a person sends salawat on us once, knowing our ma'rifah, on the Day of Judgment, us Ahlul Bayt will take you by the hand and take you into heaven. that brings our discussion to an end. On this blessed night, بحق Imam al-Rauf, let no one go from this majlis without their desires not being fulfilled. For those who are sick, Allah cure them from their sickness. And for those of us who are going through examinations, Allah help us pass these examinations. For those of us who are suffering in any shape or form, may Allah remove those sufferings. And for those of us who may not be here tomorrow, may Allah make our journey with ease. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين.
بار محمد وآل محمد صلوات. मेरे दिल में है याद मोहम्मद, मेरे दिल में है याद मोहम्मद, मेरे होठों पे जिक्र मदीना, मेरे दिल में है याद मोहम्मद. बार मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सलवात. या इमाम रज़ा, 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 या इमाम रज़ा. हर नफस हर घड़ी मेरे दिल से यही आ रही है सदा. या इमाम रज़ा, या इमाम रज़ा, या इमाम रज़ा. तेरी अज़मत पे भला क्यों न दलालत बनता, शेर कालीन का किस तरह न जिंदा होता. है हकीकत यही तेरी मर्जी में ही है खुदा की रज़ा. या इमाम रज़ा, या इमाम रज़ा, या इमाम रज़ा. अब के मशहद से जो पलटा हूँ तो मेरे मोहसिन, सांस लेना मुझे अच्छा नहीं लगता, लेकिन फिर भी है ये सुकून मैं कहीं भी रहूं, दिल वही है मेरा. या इमाम रज़ा, 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 या इमाम रज़ा. कैसे समझेगा ज़माना तेरी नौकर की हदें, तेरे मारूफ ने बांधे है समंदर की हदें. बढ़ते तूफान का रुख बदलता गया, उसने जब दी सदा. या इमाम रज़ा, 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 या इमाम रज़ा. मेरी इस वक्त तेरे दर पे नज़र है मौला, मेरी इस वक्त तेरे दर पे नज़र है मौला. और तुझे मेरी मुसीबत की खबर है मौला. दूर उफ्ताद कर, मेरी इमदाद कर, तू है मुश्किल कुशा या इमाम रज़ा, 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 या इमाम रज़ा। इल्तिजा आपसे करता हूँ इमाम हश तुम, उनके सदके में जिन्हें कहते हैं मासूम आए कुम। जो परेशान है जल्द कर दीजिए उसकी हाजत रवा, या इमाम रज़ा, 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 या इमाम रज़ा। जीते जी जान से अपनी मैं गुजर जाऊंगा, जल्द मशहद न बुलाओगे तो मर जाऊंगा। ऐ इमाम गरीब तुम हो मेरे तबीब, जल्द कर दो दवा, या इमाम रज़ा, 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 या इमाम रज़ा। सूरतुल मुबारकतुल फातिहा।
The azan is in 2 minutes, so we'll have the azan in 2 minutes.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن عليًا ولي الله محمد وآله أشهد أن عليًا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما
الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الصلاة الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر سبحان رب العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله 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 سمع الله الله أكبر سبحان رب الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان رب الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد كذلك الله ربنا الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلبي على دينك الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بحول الله وقوته سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله أكبر سبحان الله ولا إله إلا الله أكبر سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله أكبر استغفر الله الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد سبحان الله الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والنجاة من النار ومن كل بلية والفوز بالجنة والرضوان في دار السلام وجوار نبيك محمد عليه وآله السلام. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك، لا إله إلا أنت، أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. وصل يا رب على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمد رسول الله، أشهد أن محمد رسول الله، أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وأولاده المعصومين حجج الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح، حي على خير العمل، حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد، الله الصمد، لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد، الله الصمد، لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربنا. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بقول الله وقوته. Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Allahu Akbar. Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu ilayh. Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Allahu Akbar. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان رب العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. صلى الله عليه وسلم. الله أكبر. سبحان رب العلا وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان رب العلا وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Assalamu alaikum. We have a few important announcements. The first one, Hyderi Sports Football Tournament is next Saturday on the 18th of June at Monks Hill. A fun-filled family day with stalls, food, ladies and children activities by Nisa Sports. Please do come and support the Hyderi Sports. Sound room, can you have the wedding invite on the TV?
The Imam Ridha Hardship Fund.
Sorry, not the video. I said the wedding invite. Okay, I'll just announce it. The families of late Ghulam Ali Panju and late Anwar Ali Ramji Petha and late Fida Ali Dharamsi and late Pyar Ali Damji request the presence at the nikah ceremony of their grandchildren Safia Alia, daughter of Nasin Ghulam Ali and Zainab Panju, to Zahir Abbas, son of Mahamud Fida Ali and Sukaina Dharamsi. The wedding is on Saturday 25th of June at 4:30 p.m. at the Hyderi Community Center here. Can we have a loud salawat for the couple? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Okay, if I can have your attention for a few more minutes. On the Wiladat of Imam Raza alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The Council of European Jamaat, COEJ, has launched an initiative in the name of our 8th Imam, which is called the Imam Raza Hardship Fund. Many financial difficulties are faced by our communities in Europe given the current situation. Just yesterday I was reading on the news, the inflation has reached 10%. That's 5 times more than the Bank of England target rate, and the daily necessities are going up. COEJ believes that every family has the right to financial dignity with confidentiality and trust. This is at the heart of how the funds will be dispersed to any member who applies. I will kindly request you to watch a short video on this initiative. The video, the brochure will be sent out on the WhatsApp group shortly for more information for those who wanted to donate and as well as apply. Sound room, can you have the video now?
The Imam Ridha Hardship Fund. The cost of living has reached an astounding level within the UK. The Council of European Jamaat seeks to alleviate financial hardships for its members. Complete confidentiality and support is available for those who require it. The data shown represents the alarming amount of households who have been directly affected by the increased costs in fuel, food, and living expenses. Through your support and donations, we can financially assist those most affected. As an applicant, you can request for up to £500 per household. We ensure confidentiality is maintained throughout and your details are not shared. As a donor, we rely on your generosity to provide this service. Donations can be made via our website with the link shown. We thank you for your support and du'as. Together, we serve.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إنه ليس لعلم بموضع رزقه وإنما طلبه اللهم إنه ليس لعلم بموضع رزقه اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إنه ليس لعلم بموضع رزقي وإنما أطلبه بخطرات تخطر على قلبي فأجول في طلبه البلدان فأنا فيما أنا طالب كالحيران لا أدري في سهل هو أم في جبل أم في أرض أم في سماء أم في بر أم في بحر وعلى يدي من ومن قبلي وعلى يدي أم في أرض أم في سماء أم في بر أم في بحر وعلى يدي من ومن قبلي من وقد علمت أن علمه عندك وأسبابه بيدك وأنت الذي تقسمه بلطفك وتسببه برحمتك. اللهم فصل على محمد وآله واجعل يا ربي رزقك لواسعا ومطلبه سهلا ومأخذه قريبا ولا تعنني بطلب ما لم تقدر لي فيه رزقا فإنك غني عن عذابي وأنا فقير إلى رحمتك. فصل على محمد وآله وجد على عبدك بفضلك إنك ذو فضل عظيم. وصل يا ربي على محمد وآله الطاهرين. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا نبي الله. السلام عليك يا حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذريته علي السجاد ومحمد الباقر وجعفر الصادق وموسى الكاظم وعلي الرضا ومحمد الجواد وعلي الهادي والحسن العسكري. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب العصر والزمان عجل الله فرجه وسهل الله مخرجه وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره ومقوية سلطان والمستشهدين بين يديه. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة وموضع الرسالة ومختلف الملائكة ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Brothers, please, when the tea and tabarruk is being served, please have a seat because there's a lot of spillage when people are standing and drinking tea. Please have a seat so we can serve the tea and tabarruk. Brothers, can I request all of you to have a seat so we can serve the tea and tabarruk, please?
Brothers, please sit down so that the tea and tabarruk can be served. There's a lot of spillage with people standing around and walking around. No tea will be served to anybody standing.
You heard Riyaz uncle, please do have a seat.